I was about the last one off my street, and the flames were already over our, thicket lane. So the time I got out of thicket, I went down on Pence, and fire trucks were on the side of the road, and the fire was going over their trucks. And one fire guy said, "Hey, we're doomed." I went down to Pearson to go meet my daughter, and everybody's running out of their cars because I shut it down. I backed up, hit a boulder, rock, and stuff in that, and went down Pearson. I got out. My daughter just barely got out. I mean, the cars weren't letting her out or whatever, and the fire was right there. And she goes, "Dad, what am I going to do?" I go, "Just go. Just go." And then she finally made it out. She wouldn't even be here today. So, I mean, it was terrible.
When I first saw people after the fire here at McGalley Community Church, they had this look of shock. You could almost look in their eyes and not see anything reflected back. They were kind of like they were walking around in this zombie state. We called it fire brain because we didn't know what else to call it. We called it fire brain. There'd be people I'd never ever seen before that you just wanted to walk up and give a great big hug to, because you could tell, even though they had family around, they were lost. I think me and my ex-wife and my daughter, we came up the first time that we were the first ones to come up, and we had to wait to get in. We had to show our ID and stuff and that. And when we came in, it was really shocking how it just wiped us out. I had one friend who had all her family history, all the family documentation, family silverware, real silverware, and she lost it all. She couldn't even find the burned up part because somebody came and looted before she was able to go back home. How do you put a value on it? For some, it was a piece of paper, but that piece of paper represented so much more. It's invaluable, right? You couldn't never replace it. So how can you put a value on it? 90% the paradise was gone, right? And you're talking about how many thousands of people that had to run for their lives here. This was a huge fire. I never seen anything like this. The donations started flooding in, and we didn't really know what to do at that point in time. So we were open 7 days a week, probably 10 or 12 hours a day in the tents, and the church was doing its own thing. It was food, it was clothing, it was some basic household items, but it's really morphed. Now we're in what people call phase 3 or phase 4 of the recovery.
Well, now we have the food, which is a food pantry. It's down in the firehouse, and that's running Thursdays and Saturdays. And then the clothing, we have a clothes closet where it's still open for them to get clothing, and we advertise that on our Facebook page.
People are coming back. People are wanting to live in paradise. New people are coming in, but the people that are coming back, and especially the people that stayed, they have had a serious challenge. Those that had housing before the fire, they owned property, they're actually now being told that unless they have a permit and they have the means to rebuild, they're not allowed to stay on their property in an RV anymore.
And there's still a lot of people in their cars, in their tents and that. And we try to get tents, we try to get stuff for the people that are still homeless. But it's crazy. I mean, you know, you figure by now things would be fine, but it's not. To me, it seems like it's getting worse. And that because people are needing the food, and plus COVID hit. It's just sad.
We're almost 5 years out from the fire. Why are these people still not back on their feet? Yeah, it wasn't just the fire though. It was COVID. It's the economy. It's the food prices. It's the cost of rebuilding. It's, you add it all up, and it's a really insurmountable problem for people who are at the lower end of the income spectrum, and especially those who were uninsured. %90 of our population was underinsured or had no insurance at all. Just as an example, my homeowner's insurance before the fire used to be about $1,000 a year. 3 years after the fire, it went up to $7,000 a year. And there's places where people simply can't get insurance, and the only choice is the state fair plan, which only covers fire. And it's expensive too. So the problem with insurance is even greater after the fire. I mean, in reality, our volunteers and the people who are working here, they're all people who went through the fire too. So some of us, like I was fortunate in that I didn't lose my house, but many of the other people that actually work here and volunteer here, they lost their homes. They lost everything. And they're still, you know, trying to rebuild.
You know, I still have backflashes and stuff in that, but it's always going to be there. It's never going to change. I mean, you know, even people say the same thing. It's, they go to Chico to get stuff and they come back and they just see the flames and stuff and that coming from Skyway going up to Paradise. And it's sad. I mean, people think that we're over it. We're not.
You know, those kind of things, they stay with you. Yeah. I think last summer was the first time I didn't have a go bag in the back of my car all summer long. And when that summer wind blows, boy, you get pretty nervous up here because it's all you think about, because it's still right here. All you have to do is look out your living room window and you see that those houses are not there. Yeah. But I know it's hard for a lot of people. They just can't. They've seen things that they tried to explain to me and I couldn't even imagine, you know, when they're trying to get out. And it's just like, I can understand they can't come back up here because it's too devastating.
Is it different that people in the community stepped up to help the community versus somebody from outside coming in? And I would say absolutely, because we can relate to what they're going through. We all went through it the same. We didn't all lose the same things. Even people who lost their homes, they all lost different things. So because we were in the community itself and because we all lost something, I mean, I didn't lose my home. I lost my community. I lost my friends. Most of my friends moved away. So I could relate. Somebody coming in from outside could relate too, but it's going to be a very different kind of way they relate. They don't actually have the same emotion associated with it. And that could be good or that could be bad, right?
Part of it is, we have been here and we have seen the devastation, lived it, seen what people are really going through. You see the people in the trailers, the people without power, and some of these people personally, or a lot of these people personally. And so there's already, there's a trust and there's a connection, and then they know you're a safe place. Although people want and need the food and the other things, they want relationship. And people that are not from this community can't offer that.
The people who were coming every week, they were meeting people too. So it was helping to actually rebuild their community by not necessarily replacing friends, but adding new friends in, adding people they could trust, adding people they could communicate with that went through the same thing as them, that understood, people who understood, truly understood. So for me personally, I was always treating these people, our shoppers, as if it was my brother or my sister, because in reality, we are all related to each other. We are all living on this earth. We need to be kind to each other.
You help to enable people. It doesn't just have to be, hey, I got to come here every week. I begin to get self-sustained and self-equipped and self-confident.
We all went through something and we all had to heal from it. Some of us healed faster than others, but it's getting them to that point too, that it's turning from victim to victory. And we have to transition into that now, and so that we can flourish and move on with our community.
Our challenges are always funding and volunteers.
You're always uncertain. Well, okay, when are the donations going to stop? When are people going to quit bringing food? There's just still a huge need because people are just now getting into their homes.
And there's a lot of awesome people that do come in here. They saying, thanks, if it wasn't for us, they wouldn't know what to do. But we just need to rebuild. Better. Get more stores up here. Try to get a hospital back, but we don't know if that's going to happen because there's not enough people here.
You see a disaster happen on TV, and unless you're local to it, you have no idea how long and what is involved in the recovery. It goes away from the news. You don't see it anymore. The assumption is those people are okay, but they're not. The need for support, the need for items, the need for a recovery center goes on way longer than anybody could ever imagine. We don't just recover at the drop of a hat. You can't just give people food or a few items and say, you're on your own, you're going to be okay now. The need is a long-term need, especially after the magnitude of a disaster like we had with the Camp Fire.